So today we are going to talk about the multiple versions of Abinitio software and how we are going to work with the multiple versions simultaneously, or what we do when our corporation releases the next version of the software, and what happens with the production, production jobs, because immediately we cannot put everything in production. So this is a 10 pointer thoughts actually. So we need to keep in mind. So every production engineer or a software development engineer, so they can take care of these things if they probably don't know earlier. Okay, so let's see one by one how things happens whenever we have multiple software versions. So what happens, can we, first of all, can we work with the different operating system versions simultaneously, in ab initio environments? Yeah, we can do work with the different version of, software simultaneously, right? So let's say we have a significant development happened as per the, operating system version 3.5, and the new version has come 4.0, and our organization has emphasizes to do the installation of 4.0 even. So how we are going to go ahead with the development stream about the previous, projects or the new projects. So we could create the connection using the same application hub to the different, operating system. So whenever we connect any desktop application like your technical repository, or a GDE, so the connection happens through application hub to the production, to the operating system. So the application hub can be used, and there will be a different installation which are there in our ab initio home, directory. So all the versions would be, refreshed when we refresh the connection. On all versions would be there in the drop down list. So whichever version we are going to choose can be reflected or can be utilized on a given time, right? Or we can have a multiple connections at the same time in the particular GDE software. Okay. Now, so let's talk about the point number three. So first we have settled down, and now what do we do when we have to upgrade the Abinitio and our production jobs are at the lower version? So the operating system versions are changing, and uh, we can keep both the versions in our production environment. Whenever new versions comes, we can install it, and or new things, can be running as per new operating system. But the older jobs would be running because the software comes with the lower compatibility always, so everything will be supported. So we don't have to worry about, immediate. This is not immediate overhead or immediate worry to modify or upgrade the graphs basically. So yes, we can run the, previous versions with the latest, versions, which, we can keep the multiple versions in the particular environment, right? So the earlier older version, jobs would be keep on running as it is. So let's talk about point number three. So the point number three is, what is the difference? We have different operating systems installed in our, let's say, development environment, and we are going to connect with the, a particular operating system through GDE, using application hub. And so what is the difference? So what difference it makes to connect to the different operating system through GDE? So how it, looks like? So first is feel and look, right? The user interface elements would be different. They are maybe the toolbox, or maybe the, graph canvas, or, the browsing experience is going to be very different from the different version, all right? So for the different versions, okay. And the organizer tool, so the particular component may not be there in the, latest version, or maybe deprecated, or maybe newly added. So that is going to be the difference. And another is the component parameters. So probably, let's say a particular component, let's say reformat. So in the reformat, we have a count parameter, we have output index, we have output indexes, and, other logging parameters and all. So let's say in the newer version they have added one more parameter. So this parameter is not going to be displayed whenever we are connecting with the lower versions, right? This is a small kind of distinguish between the two versions connections, right? And the DML functions, so probably sometimes what happens is that they deprecate the one particular behavior of the function, or maybe they add this enhance that particular behavior of the function, maybe to accommodate different more scenarios. So the fixes and enhancements are going to be different in the look and feel and everything. The functionality is going to be different in other versions, right? The different versions. And then another is AB compatibility. So whenever you generate the graph, whenever you start creating the graph from the scratch, the AB compatibility is going to be for that particular connection and for that particular version. So the AB compatibility, how will you look and see the AB compatibility is you develop the graph, and in the graph region you right click on it, and you will see along with author and other description, you will see the AB compatibility. AB compatibility is that the version would be specified. Let's say AB, compatibility of this particular, graph is this and that. Okay, let's version. Let's say we are developing the things in 3.0, then 3.0 dot whatever the version is going to be displayed over there. Now let's talk about point number four. Point number four is what happens when we run lower version graph in GDE, having set to latest version. So GDE will not use the previous version. It's whenever it runs a particular graph. So whenever you run the graph, the graph behavior is going to be equal to the whatever the connection you are the GDE connection, using the operating system. So let's say our GDE connection is 4.0 and we have a graph which is in 3.5. So if you run that graph, the behavior of execution is going to be as equal to as 4.0, because GDE doesn't care about the IB compatibility things. Okay, so the behavior of the graph run is going to be very very different. Probably it may fail sometimes, and depending upon the volume or significant amount of change that has happened from the earlier version to the latest version, the how complex the modification has been done, among or between two versions. So depending upon that, the behavior is going to be changed. So this happens particularly in GDE, the desktop applications, right? So what happens when an old graph or plan run in production having the latest version? So if the production have the latest versions and the graph, and we have multiple installations in there in production environment, so whenever the latest the AB Home is the latest versions are already installed, but whenever we run the graph, the AB compatibility of the graph is going to be seen and checked, and the production environment, the operating system will simulate the yeah, or create the behavior of the lower version for that for that particular graph, to run. So in production environments, when we run from the background or from the any other, let's say we have a scheduled from the AutoSys job or a TWS environment. So the graph run by these methods are going to be check the AB compatibility of the particular graph design, and the particular behavior is evoked, or you can say that the behavior is created for that particular graph run, and everything would be remain as it is. Okay, so this happens when the things runs in production. Now, let's talk about point number six. Whenever we modify the graph for latest versions, why we modify, why we should modify, or why we may modify the graph for the latest version. So first reason is could be compatibility of the graph. So we want to the things to be very latest and to mark, it should be compatible with the newer versions. Okay, and to the compliance. So many organizations forces this compliance to make software pages as latest as the market. So that could be one reason to make the upgradation of the graphs or upgradation of the installation in our environments. The another reason could be for new feature and fixes. So constantly, the corporation are applying the new features for a particular components or a particular behavior, or maybe they are going to add in many more interfaces with the different third-party applications. So to utilize those features and fixes from the previous versions, we could you know modify our graph, or do the installation as soon as possible, right? So the seventh pointer is why do we keep multiple version installation at the same time? So the first things could be whenever a new versions comes and we are not ready for that, and there are multiple complex application involved in our previous versions, and we are not ready to do the integration testing or complex testing as point in time. So we could have the older versions as well installed in the production or a lower or maybe testing environments. So the reason second could be time overhead, and sometimes we don't have the time. We have different cycle of development, and we don't have folks to work on, immediately, with the older graphs, and they enhance it to the new graphs, right? So that is the kind of volume of time, right? So this is we don't have time at the moment, and we are not going to do it as of now, but gradually, depending upon the requirement, we are going to do it, or probably some particular application we are going to use, let's say 1 year of time, and then that application is going to be scrapped at all from the scratch, is going to be vanished from the systems. Then we should not modify the graphs or modify the application for the latest version, because eventually in a couple of years, or maybe 1 year, is going to be removed at all, and the new altogether new system is going to be in place. So in those reasons, we avoided. Reason three could be utilizing new feature for a specific portion of the graph. So we have a multiple graphs in a particular end-to-end project system, and the data pipeline is designed in such a way that we have length of time to develop this data pipeline, and we had the earlier we had the when we started there was an let's say version 3.0, and we are reached to the 3.4.0 gradually, but we can develop the new portion using the earlier the latest version, and the older portion can be it can be run or executed in the older versions, right? So we can keep multiple versions in production, and eventually we are going to upgrade the depending upon our time and team's availability. So this could be the reasons when we keep the multiple installation at the same time. The eighth pointer, I would say, how to maintain the various operating systems and track the object list for various reasons, various versions. Sorry. So how we do that? So what we can do, we can prepare the kind of configuration file or key value pair file, or right, and that key value files can be read in or wrapper script probably, and to assign that operating system for a particular graph execution, right? So we can prepare the file, and we can invoke that file into our graph wrapper script, right? And that wrapper script is calling that and setting up the environment before graph call, before preset or plant call. So that can be done, and then the behavior can be created for a particular run, right? So this can be done easily, and the AB AIR sandbox AB compatibility. So how we enforce or we modify the compatibility of the particular graph. So this is a very important feature, and this is very kind of used with very care and consciousness. Is that so? Let's say we have a job which is running in production, and it was running perfectly fine from a longest time of period. And what happens is it started failing due to some data reason, or some other probable reason, and we want to modify the graph a bit at the moment. Let's say it's production, and it's very very high important job priority. Even things are there. So high priority things are running, and we don't have to wait for the proper cycle of development, and fix to the production, right? So we just need to um, track that graph into the development or GDE, and then apply the fix a little bit, and then to fix it again and put in production as an at the moment. Okay. So what we can do is we can let's say the things are running in 3.5. At the moment we have 4.0. So what we can do is we can modify we can modify the graphs. We can save the graphs, and we can check in the graph, and then from the background we have a AR sandbox semi compatibility command to make the set the version, set the compatibility to the lower version, right? So whenever you modify the graph in 4.0 GDE, the compatibility is going to be changed, right? So it will be setting whenever you check in the graph, it will be setting as 4.0. But you want to modify the compatibility in production environment again back to the 3.5. So what you can do is modify. You can use this AR sandbox command to make that. Why we make that the compatibility earlier compatibility, because we want everything else running same, but we want a little bit modification. Let's say we wanted to make the any component from abort from first record to the never abort, to collect the record into the one file. Let's say this is the small piece of change for a particular component. So this, because the graph has been getting failed because of database, we want to collect those data in production, right? Graph has been failing, and we want to collect those data. We are going to change the never from abort on first record to the never abort, so that we can collect the data, right? So everybody knows this functionality. This small piece of things, but everything else should run according to the earlier versions. Okay, earlier behavior should be there in production, right? So, but we want to simultaneously want to fix it. But we want to fix it, then we have a version 4.0 GDE. Then we can modify it. We can save it. It's going to be a 4.0 saving. But after deployment, we can run this command AI sandbox and we can make it compatible to the 3.5. Now this can be done, and the job would be running as it was running earlier. Now, the point number 10 is time to remove older version. When we think that we have, time has come to remove the older installation. So, what is the reason obsolete? We are not going to use it. None of our applications are going to use the earlier environment. So, go ahead and delete it. And second reason could be we want to utilize that space for some different project or for a different work. So scrap that version and clean up everything. And reason three could be wrongly installed unnecessary version. So maybe in the first sort we have did installed things wrongly, and we have to replace the things. So earlier versions need to be removed and latest version needs to be installed. So with that, thank you so much. Please subscribe my channel, and we are going to look at many more features in coming time. Thank you so much.